Well, I kind of had an eventful morning or last couple of days. We live in the country and we have some cows, and we had 9 cows from show up in my yard that belonged to somebody. But it's just amazing how God can take things that can look like a problem for a moment and turn it for good. And so I don't want to go into the whole story, but I've been on the phone talking to the man who owns the cows, and it's amazing how God uses things to bring people together. And what an enjoyment it was, the conversation of us talking, how God takes things that sometimes can be frustrating or things they seem like it's a problem, and He's orchestrates things in our life. And in the middle of this all today, it also took a call from somebody who had really gone through a fire. You know, there's trials, and then there's fiery trials. There's some things of life, the cows get out. They get in neighbor's yard, or different things that can happen. And it could be sickness. It could be a lot of levels. But then there's those ultimate, the biggies. And my other friend that I was talking to, it was someone who'd lost a child. And not just lost his young son, but in a terrible, terrible way, a fiery crash that he'd come on and saw his son's vehicle burning. And it's like the worst of nightmares that any parent could ever have. But we were talking, and whatever level we are in our situations, it's amazing as we can look and how we can see God. We can see God in the fact that some cows get out and we had to go search for them and figure out how to get them back. Or even something as terrible as the death of a child. But I know the greater the fire, the greater the light. Because fire is not just something that purifies, but fire is something that brings light. And we know there's a story, and my friend Wade had said something about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, which was, a story in the Bible. There was 3 men that was thrown into a furnace of fire, literal fire. And so he had seen his son die in a fire, and my house was in a fire, and there's physical fires that can happen. But in the middle of their fire, that people that were looking on said, wait a minute, didn't we throw 3 people in the fire? And like, yeah. And they go, well, I see a fourth man. I see somebody else in the fire with them. And so what they saw was the manifest presence of God in the middle of these terrible, terrible storm, terrible fire that they are going to be burned alive. And because they refused to compromise their beliefs and compromise to bow unto this king, and they trusted God. And so there's times in life that we have to make hard decisions, but sometimes those decisions are made for us, and we had nothing to do with that. We didn't decide to go into the fire. But whether we decide to go like they did or we're put in the fire, I know that that's when we see God. We see Him the most. It was even Job in the Bible who had went through just the worst fires you can think of, not only losing all of his children, losing his home, losing his livelihood, and then being very sick himself and in terrible pain. Even that, he had said that I had heard about God, but he said, now I've seen Him for me. Now I have seen Him in my own fire. And some people think, well, he went through that so he'd have double for his trouble. No, I don't care. You can have 1 million kids. There's nobody can take the place of the one you lost, right? So it wasn't that God was trying to bless him by going through it, but no, what he did in this experience with Job is he got to know God personally. And then in the middle of all that also, but then God did bless him. He did have double the children. He had double everything to come back to him. And so we do see God compensates us, but God does not have things happen in our lives to try to bless us or try to, no, what He does, there is things in this world that we live in. Good things happen. Bad things happen to good people, things that we don't understand. And sometimes we look back and we do see some things that makes a little understanding. But through it all, the biggest deal is, do I see God? And not just do I see God, but do people around me see God? Do they see God in my storm? Do they see how He carries me through it? That's what we've seen. with our family. With the greatest witness, the greatest power that our family, not just Gary and I, the Weebies, but the Perrys and other parts of our family, that the people that in not just natural family, but spiritual family, they see God in it's not, they really don't see him so much in the blessing. They're not really seeing him and us ourselves. And the guy I was talking to with cows, he was like, it's through those times that when really we're being blessed and we have all these good things happening, that somehow in the back of our mind, we're all like this. Somehow we think we did it. Maybe it's because I went to school and I got a good education, or maybe I got a good job, or maybe I made some right choices. And so somehow or another, we can sort of take blessings that somehow or another it was good luck or things that we did. But there's some things we can't get any credit. Only God. You say, but God. But God did that. That's when the glory of God shows up. The glory is the manifest presence of God. And that's when you look and say, that was God. He gets the glory. He gets the credit. Do people see God in you today? Do they see him? Do I see him in the storm? Do I see him in the fire? And more than even that, does other people see him in my fire? Because I have purpose. And I have to know that when you've lost a child, you want some kind of purpose to come out of it. And of course, Wade is created a great ministry that goes in and speaks to kids all over and does great things and through the story of his son. When it happens, just like us with the suicide that happened in our family, you want to make sense of something that's senseless, but you just try to we want to do something out of this. We want to take something and maybe some other parent doesn't go through this. We want to use their story. That it's not just nothing. That wreck wasn't just nothing. That the devastation of these different things that happen is not just for nothing, but that there's some meaning that comes out of it. There's just something good that can come out of even the worst things. There's nothing like that blessing. You see people that have been able to donate organs. They've lost their loved one, but then they donate organs to other people and help somebody else's child to have a heart, or somebody else to have eyes, or have lungs, or have transfusions. And so there's some kind of satisfaction of some sort to go, well, their life wasn't in vain. There was something that came out of this. And so I do know that even in the tragedies of life, when we look at God and we can see him in the fire, we can look and say, God, you're still here and you're the good one. No, man fails, life fails, this world, it's got so much in it. There's so much pain in this world. And I've been very up close and personal with the suffering that's in this world. But all I know in the middle of it, but God. And there's joy. There's still joy. And we still see his goodness. And he still turns around and compensates us. And there is double for your trouble. Oh, I'm reminded of the scripture. He said, be not weary in well-doing, for in due season you will reap if you faint not. Just don't give up. Don't fall out. Don't faint. Don't give up. Don't give up. Just get back up. If you did give up, it's all right. God don't count how many times you fall down, but I do know he does count how many times you get back up. And he's not just depending on you to get up. It's when he will come and he will strengthen you and help you get up and take another step. God bless you today. Hope this has been encouragement to you.